Bob McElligott and Jody Shelley with you. Blue Jackets getting set for their next game. It's tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, Nationwide Arena. They will play against the Ottawa Senators. And even though it'll be the first meeting of the year between these two teams, Ottawa, they've had a good season to this point. Now, they've fallen into the wild card situation coming into the game, but they're there in the playoff picture. And they are a tough team, and they're doing it. They're kind of doing it like the Blue Jackets are to some extent, and especially what amazes me about them, Jody, is their goaltending. Craig Anderson has been away from the team a lot because his wife was diagnosed with cancer, so he's been a guy that's been in and out of the lineup, which that makes it tough. I mean, when we've just seen it in the last 2 weeks, right? When your number one goaltender is unavailable and when he's not there to play every day, it is a challenge. And, of course, all of his teammates understand exactly when he's not there, why he's not there, for sure. But they've been able to put together a nice little run here to start the year.
I think they've done it, and it's very similar to Columbus. We say that about the Carolina Hurricanes, but this team in Ottawa is very well coached. Guy Boucher is a very, very smart tactician. He's a guy that's he's not a very old coach. He's been around for a little while, did a lot of work in Europe, and he's a guy that I think has really got the pulse of this team. He's got a young group with skill that likes to work hard, and he's very, very detail-oriented. And I think that, along with Mark Crawford, his assistant, who was a longtime NHL coach, a Stanley Cup champ, and a guy that ended up in Europe last year, these guys together have done a nice job with this team. Their goaltending situation, of course, with Anderson stepping away to be with his wife, it's just a remarkable story, and hopefully she comes through, and he's there by her side, which is just so great that the organization is so on top of that. But they picked up a goaltender in Condon that stepped in and has done a really good job for this team. And we know the importance of goaltending. They're a team that is doing pretty well in the power play right now. And, they work hard at the penalty kill. So, again, and I tell you what, that win last night for the Columbus Blue Jackets, it doesn't jump off the page. But when you face a team in Carolina who I think was confident, they'd won 4. Obviously, they were confident. They won 4 in a row. Excuse me. But for the Blue Jackets to stand in and just really, I thought they really did a great job of controlling most of that game, answered the bell quick after that first goal by the Carolina Hurricanes, and having Sergei Bobrovsky, not to do a big workload last night, but he did his job. It's just it was a good win for the Columbus Blue Jackets, and I think tomorrow night's a bigger test.
Yeah, I like the way they ended the game. I thought in the third period that was the Blue Jackets team that we've seen this year, especially and John Tortorella talked about the Saad Foligno and Wenberg line. They were cycling in the third period. Up until that point, they were kind of stymied by the defense of the Carolina Hurricanes, but they started to cycle, and then the pressure stayed in that end for a long time. That got the crowd into it with the CBJ chant because they wouldn't come out of the Carolina zone. So, again, tomorrow, you better start that way against the Ottawa Senators and go with that old adage that the home team is supposed to control the first 10 minutes of the game. Try to set the tone early tomorrow.
And you know what's interesting about the last 10 minutes or the last period of last night's game is that the Blue Jackets did overwhelm the Hurricanes. I mean, there was a sense of this is not gonna go our way. In Carolina, you could see it. They would try to muster up an attack, and it's one thing to get an attack on a team, but then you have to beat a goaltender like Sergei. It's deflating, especially when you're down a couple goals. And I sense the Blue Jackets sense that from the opposition. They can hang around with Sergei some games, where, example, keep us in the game and we'll come back and get the goals for you. Or, like last night, you've got the run support, 4-1. I mean, you sense the confidence on the bench from those guys that were next to me. It's like, this isn't going to happen for them. And when you're on a team that's happening, I don't care what sport it is, and the opposition thinks they're coming back, and you're just like, it's a powerful thing.
Ryan Murray I thought that might have been his best game of the year last night. It's certainly up there in the top 5 of what he has played this year. John Tortorella has talked about him, and earlier in the year he had an injury, and Torts has said, I don't think he's come back fully to himself. He's not the guy I saw last year when he was playing his best, and I felt like last night was kind of a glimpse at that guy. Did you feel that way?
I thought so. I think Ryan Murray is a guy that is not playing where he wants to play. He's the third pair defenseman on this organization now. And last year, for the healthy season, he played every game. He was higher up in the depth chart, and he was a guy that was going to be looked at the 3-4 slot. And I think Ryan has taken a little bit of adjustment to be on the third pair and to realize that the winning is the most important. I mean, of course, he realizes that, but he wants to play up. He wants more of a responsibility, and that's exactly what he should be thinking, and he will get more responsibility somehow. But last night with Nudavara out, I thought you're right. Ryan Murray seemed to step up in different ways, and I think he's going to realize that when games get tight, much like Sam Gagner. Sam Gagner is a fourth-line guy right now, but pivot player on the power play, and big face-offs, big moments in the game, he's a key guy. I think if Ryan Murray, he's going to be that guy because you've got young defense, and as this thing gets harder and teams start to focus on Werenski, Jones, I mean, Jack Johnson and David Savard, they're unflappable. Those guys, they're almost like robots out there. You just keep putting them on the ice. They do it for 35, 40, 50 seconds, and they come off. Very consistent. But there's going to be times where Zach and Seth might get worn down a little bit, and that's where the value of Ryan Murray just jumps at you. Because last night, you're right, quietly does the solid things, the solid plays all night long. And I think maybe we noticed him more last night, but I think his teammates really have a great appreciation for the way he plays.
And I thought that him playing with Scott Harrington was a much bigger deal than Ryan Murray made it out to be because, as he told me today, they've played together before. He said, I know exactly the game that he's going to bring. When he's my partner, I know exactly what he's going to do. And he said, and I also know that if I mess up, he's going to be back there and he's going to bail me out. So that familiarity was good between those two guys. The question is, who plays tomorrow? Because, first of all, Zach Werenski didn't skate today, and John Tortorella said he was just under the weather. And Dalton Prout is somebody that Tort said yesterday that he wants to get him into some games here, too. He doesn't want to just say, okay, Scott Harrington, you're the guy until you make the mistake. He's going to put them both in there because he's trying to figure out exactly what he has. And again, this is like the backup goaltending situation, right? This is the evaluation time because the trade deadline is March 1st. And by that time, you have to figure out, do we have what we need? If we don't have what we need, can we get it? How do we get it? That's why you've got to figure these things out now.
100%. That's what the regular season is all about. And some teams have major adversity and things click the last 2 weeks of the playoffs, and then off they go with that huge roll. Well, the Blue Jackets have had great success the first half of the year. They've been extremely healthy, knock on wood, which is a huge deal. And, the lineup's been the same and consistent. Well, I think they need adversity. Tort said we're gonna get adversity. They need a little adversity. I mean, I think that at the end of the day, it'll be good. And you have to credit the coaching staff. They're staying on top of things. I mean, I say it all the time. I think success sometimes covers warts. But I think in this organization, with what they went through last year, I don't think that's the case. So I think that sometimes this team is well aware and honest, and I think that's the value of Torts and Jarmo. They're honest. So they know what they have, and you're 100% right. They need to figure out the defense, the backup goaltender situation, and then up front, what is going to happen? They need a depth forward. Who's going to be the guy to step in? I know Hannikainen's been up and down a lot traveling, but we haven't seen him in a role where he's played big minutes or been able to grab a bottom six situation, and then a top six. Who's going to be a top six guy to come in? So those are questions they will get ironed out. They watch on a daily basis, but I agree with the Harrington and Prout situation. It's much like the Forsberg and Korpisalo situation where it needs to be sorted out now.
And you're finding out the Blue Jackets have been on the other side of this for so many years. You're finding out that there is not a lot available right now in the trade because so many teams think that they're in it right now, so it makes it tough. You're going to have to wait. It's going to be down to the wire to figure out what's actually there and how much the cost will be.
Yeah, and I think this team is. I mean, this team is building for the future. I mean, they're not going to mortgage anything because they feel pretty good about themselves. I don't get that sense. I think it's a sense of, hey, this was a team we had 2 years ago. We fell on our face last year, but we're sticking with it, and they're going to add the right people. They've got great guys. I mean, listen, we know we're around them. They've got great people in that locker room, and I think that's a huge part. For the Werenskis and Andersons, who are also great people, to be a part of, and they will continue. But it's got to be something that really makes sense for them to make a move.
Yeah, and you've got good guys waiting in the wings, and
yeah.
like an Oliver Bjorkstrand who started
100%.
Here and couldn't hang here. I mean, that's a guy, and Torts has said this a million times. He's got a big future here.
Yeah, I mean that's a kid that they talked about out of camp, and it's one of those things where Torts had an eye on him. He wasn't impressed, and he got him out of here. And Lucas Sedlak came out of nowhere, and I think that's what you're going to see is like. If I'm in the minors this year and I was scheduled to be up here and I see Lucas Sedlak and Josh Anderson, I'm triple motivated. I want to be the next call-up. I want to be the next guy. They're all on a team down there, but they are scratching and clawing to get in here. So we haven't talked about Sonny Milano. He's a guy that was talked about a lot in camp. There's other prospects and players in Europe that are playing. The first overall pick last year, the big Swede, is it Eriksson? He's a guy that they're looking to. He's a big 6'5" guy. They're watching World Juniors. So all ages, all levels. We don't know, we know Cleveland, but it's all setting up for a bright future here for Columbus.
Yeah, that's a good point. Marcus Nudavara last year was playing in Europe. He was a 7th-round pick. Nobody knew who he was. They signed him, and here he is in the top 6.
Somebody did.
Somebody did. Yeah, the right people knew exactly who he was. So tomorrow it's the Blue Jackets taking on the Ottawa Senators. There will be a couple of familiar faces, and Derek Brassard and Mark Mathot, former Blue Jackets, that'll be back in the building tomorrow. For this group of Blue Jackets, the important thing is to get the 2 points, to get a victory in the second game of a 3-game homestand. That's 7 o'clock tomorrow night, and that's going to do it for tonight's edition of The Inside Edge. Thanks for being there. Thanks to Kirk Herbstreit and Brandon Dubinsky for joining us. That's Jody Shelley. I'm Bob McElligott. Thanks for listening to The Inside Edge on 97.1 The Fan.
This has been The Inside Edge with Jody Shelley and Bob McElligott.
And I got 2 words for you. Game over.
March with us. Brought to you by Ohio Health, Nationwide Insurance, El Dorado, Scioto Downs, and Huntington.
On your flagship station for the Columbus Blue Jackets, Sports Radio 97.1 The Fan.